I said, for somebody who's so concerned about the well-being of his daughters, you sure as hell haven't learned how to respect women. Oh, nice. I said, thanks for wasting my time, asshole.
It's no accident that sounds like you're leveling up in a video game. 48% of 18 to 29-year-olds have an online dating profile.
Make them work for it.
45% of people say they're more frustrated with this form of dating than hopeful.
There are so many people you can connect with.
Should I swipe right?
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong. Setting the record straight on dating apps. Everyday people telling everyday stories of the swipe right world with your host, Koss.
Well, I know he had a good time.
I'm not going to lie, I 100% absolutely positively love that open. So we did a whole bunch of promos when we were setting up the release date of last week of the September 6th. And there was reels put out there. There was just Twitter, whatever aspect we could hit, we would hit pretty hard. And I would make reels and Jay would make a couple. And his were phenomenal. Like that open. Jay and the Crack staff put that together. It's amazing. I didn't touch it. You can tell. It's freaking good. I don't remember last time I said freaking. And when I put reels together and stuff, it was like with broken crayons outside the lines and stuff, and you can hear, oh, that was one Koss did. That was one that Koss did. Anyway, welcome to the Swipe Wrong podcast. We're on episode 2. Episode 1 was me telling you my story on kind of how we got here. I definitely left some things out, but I got to the gist of it. Look, I've learned a long time ago, no one needs to hear me talk for an hour. That's pretty much the foundation of my first divorce. So no reason for me to keep going. So now we get into the most important part of everything, and that's the people. People matter the most. And we talk to a lot of people. Doesn't matter if they're male, female, non-binary, gay, straight, bi, white, black. It doesn't matter at all. All that matters is the same thing. Everybody's on the same path. We're all on a quest for happiness. We're all trying to achieve happiness. Where we all seem to run into roadblocks is someone's version of happiness might be entirely different than someone else's, and that's where the communication gets fucked up, or people sometimes just aren't good people. So now that we get into talking to some of the people, a couple of rules that we kind of followed, and one was we didn't mention names whenever we didn't need to mention names. The only time names come up is if they bring them up. We're not here to bring them up. A couple of people wanted to stay anonymous. We left them anonymous. A couple of people wanted their voices altered, so we altered their voices. This isn't about who they are. This is about you and them and everybody's story. Because as much as we found so many people just felt like they were cursed, like they attracted the crazy, and it was just them. And that's not the case. There is so much crazy. There's enough for everybody. There's enough crazy to go around for all of us. You're not the only one that's attracting the crazy. And as you'll find out as we go through these conversations, they're not interviews, because it's not like it's a spotlight on somebody in an interrogation. It's just a casual conversation of getting stories, because you're not in this alone. I promise you that. So this one is done in 2 parts. This is one where I sat down and we had lunch and we talked for a while, and she told me her story. And then when we were done talking, as we were walking away to our cars, she told me a little bit more about the story when we were done recording. And I was like, what the hell? How did we not get this? Why did we not get this? What's going on? And because I think it completes the story. And so the second part is we're in a room talking, so you're going to hear the acoustics be quite different. You're not going to hear birds. You'll probably hear me a little bit clearer. There might be a little bit of an echo just on the way it was recorded, so I apologize for the audio ahead of time. But I do think you're going to like it. This one, now there is I guess it's a way that it can be said. Like, I think everyone's familiar with the term hit and run. A guy or girl sleeps with somebody and then they're just gone. You never hear from them again. Yes, the popular term is ghosting. We like to call it a hit and run. This one's a little bit different than that. So for this one, we call it the drive-by. So sit back, grab some popcorn, relax, put your feet up, enjoy, or if you're in traffic, don't hit the guy next to you, and enjoy the drive-by. And one more word, of course, from the quote-unquote legal department.
Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions or any entities they represent. This podcast is about dating experiences. It is not to say one dating app is better or worse than another.
I mean, Jesus. I mean, I guess the first thing I'd ask you is why'd you go to the apps? Why didn't you just go to the bar and just wait to get picked up on?
Well, because that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen anymore, does it?
No, and I've told some people, they're like, oh, why are you on here? I was like, well, because I haven't hit you with my grocery cart yet. So, I mean, it's like, you don't hear that stuff happening anymore. So it's like, you either are fortunate enough to have a friend who has a friend that they're like, oh, you two would be perfect together, or you're at the mercy of the insanity on the apps.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think when we first hung out the first time at the Ale, I think I even told you, when I'd walk up to people and say, hey, how you doing? The reactions of people face to face were so different than anything. It's like they are not comfortable without a screen in front of them.
They don't know how to act. They don't know how to talk. And then so many people don't wear their wedding rings these days that the last thing you want to do is be accused of hitting on someone who's married because you didn't know or whatever.
You ever go to oh my God, I'm blanking on it. It's one of my favorite places. A grocery store over by B-Dubs in Carmel. Health food store.
Oh,
not Whole Foods, but
Fresh Time?
Fresh Market.
Fresh Market, yeah.
So I was walking out of there today. I love that place. And as I'm walking out, I'm in the parking lot and this girl's walking towards me and she's gorgeous. And I'm just like, hey, I just got to tell you, you are beautiful. And she just went like this. And I'm like, no, I'm just telling you. It's just I'm just saying. And she's like, oh, thank you. I'm like, this isn't an assault in the parking lot. It's just a compliment because that's what it feels like.
Well, and that's the thing though, but people have gotten to where no one is comfortable saying what they think in front of people. And so it gets interpreted the wrong way. If someone does say it, it's like, what am I missing? They're reading into it because that just doesn't happen. So
what's really going on here? What does this person really want because they're complimenting me?
Exactly.
I mean, what am I going to do? Walk up to her and say, hey, you look beautiful. Can I send you a dick pic? I mean, that's not really what's going to happen.
Well,
not in person. I mean, maybe not.
Because you're not hiding behind your screen.
Right.
It's like you said the other day, screen courage.
Oh, keyboard courage.
Keyboard courage,
thing.
absolutely.
It's a real thing.
It is.
How many dick pics would you say you've gotten?
Oh, I would say, I mean, not a ton, because I've only been on these apps for, a few months now, I think.
No.
So.
Well, how long do you think we've known each other? We've known each other for a while.
Okay, so 4.5 months.
Yeah.
4.5 months or so. I would say probably maybe 12. I guess. So I don't know if that's a lot or not. I mean, I don't think it's a lot because I haven't talked. I mean, for the last couple of months, I had the apps off. I wasn't trying to meet
because
anyone
you were
or talking.
seeing. Okay.
Yeah.
So you turned them off because you're saying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
I was.
Yeah. No, I'm not. They're still clouded. But if you weren't seeing the guy, they would have stayed on.
Yeah.
Okay,
and again, with that, some are unsolicited. Some are not. It's just an awkward thing.
Have you asked for one? Have you
Absolutely
said,
not.
Okay,
no.
So you just said, go ahead and send me one.
If someone has said, can I send you one? It's, you don't want to hurt their feelings and say no, but you also don't want to be like, yeah, sure, please do. So I usually just say, if that's what you want to do. And then it's just, and I know we've talked about this, but I do not show them to anybody. I know some people do. I don't. I'm just like, that's not anybody else's business.
I know, in the first episode, if I ever end up actually doing this podcast, the first thing I'll say, women, if you get a dick pic, send it to your friends. That is going to be I guess I am the guy making
You're giving permission.
Yeah, absolutely. As a man, if we do that, it's just got to be part of the unwritten contract.
Right.
I sent it. She didn't ask for it. She can do what she wants with it. It could be a fucking Christmas card for all I know.
Someone along the way will stumble upon it and say, that looks really familiar.
So let me ask, I've never asked you this before, and this kind of came to my head the other day.
Okay.
Have you ever felt unsafe on a date?
I wouldn't say unsafe. There was, the date with the 9 o'clock Alexa guy.
Oh, yeah.
So for backstory on that was, I have a terrible habit of, part of me in my mind knows, this is weird, something's up, I should probably not be doing this, but then there's the other part of me that's like, this is weird. Like, what else is going to happen? It's
Sure.
more of like a curiosity killed the cat
I
type
want to
of
see how
thing.
this movie unfolds.
Exactly. So there are times where it's like, I mean, I would know if I felt unsafe, but I'm typically pretty good about going to a public place. I meet the person there, you know, etc. With Alexa Guy, so we met for what was supposed to be dinner. Place where we were supposed to go didn't have availability, so we went somewhere else, and then he didn't want to eat, so he told me to order dinner, which was awkward in itself. And we were supposed to go hang out at his house afterward. And I think the first clue to like take off and leave was when I said, "Okay, what's your address?" And he's like, "Hang on, let me check." He didn't. I swear to God.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, swear to God. So he had moved into a condo about a month prior. So he was saying he had to look at his app because he hadn't been there long and couldn't remember his address. So I should have gotten in my car and taken off. I mean, that was not even the first weird thing, but that was the first thing that was like, something's not adding up. So as I'm walking into his house, I'm like thinking, shit, this is how Dateline episodes happen. Like, I'm gonna be on a Friday night, like in a couple of months, like missing or something. I was like, what am I doing? And, you know, we got inside and I saw a piece of mail on the counter that had his name and that address. So I'm like, okay, this is legitimately where he lives. Cool. Like, he's just an idiot. Cool. But, yeah, and he was the one, like, he had said, "Oh, what kind of wine do you like? I'm picking up some wine today." And I had told him, so we get in there and he's like, "Well, I picked up some wine, but I don't have any wine glasses." So, like, okay. So instead of saying, "Well, you know, I can pour some in a cup for you," he gets himself a bottle of water and then didn't offer me anything. And I'm like, oh my God, like, it just got weirder by the night. But, you know, the icing on the cake, I think, was when he was like, "Oh man, you know, you're going to keep me up past my bedtime because I usually go to bed at 9. I even have Alexa set to remind me." And this was like 8:57, and sure as shit, in 3 minutes, Alexa's like, "It's time for bed." This is a Friday night, mind you. And I was like, I'm sorry, am I like gonna ruin your sleep pattern or something? Do I need to take off? But yeah, he was weird, and thank God I never talked to him again. But yeah, I would say that's the only time that, I don't know that I felt unsafe, but I felt like that was probably a really dumb thing for me to do, is to follow some guy to his house considering he didn't know his own address. I'm like, and he, well, I guess I'm not giving it away, but he is a realtor. So I'm thinking to myself after the fact, like, this guy's got access to any open house that is on the market. Shit. So I, after the fact, was like, that was really stupid, because it could have been like a vacant home that somebody moved out of, and like, I don't know. So
the key code box.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, that was okay. We're gonna put that in the brain bank as something not to do going forward. So yeah.
So let's go with the embarrassing story. That's
oh God. So this is the worst. So, you know, like, I tend to attract some awesome people, and so my let's see, what would it have been, last Saturday night or Sunday.
This past weekend.
Yeah. No, not this past weekend, but the prior weekend. So a little over a week ago. Yeah, a little over a week ago. Okay. Someone had reached out to me, I think it was on Sunday, and we started talking, and he had said he had just gotten back into town from visiting his parents out of state, and we talked for a while, and then he was still on vacation, or had like the first few days of the week off, and was going back to work on Thursday. So we talked a bit on, you know, throughout the day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, we talked a lot. We talked on the phone. We decided to meet at Topgolf on Thursday. Okay. So, yes, because I told you I was going out Thursday night. I was like, I don't know. Yeah, right. And you said, "Oh, what's this? I don't know." Well, the I don't know really was, you know, foreshadowing, I suppose. So we met at Topgolf, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, and here was somebody who, like, you know, he's divorced, he's got 3 children, but he has primary custody of them. Like, the mother hardly ever has them. You know, seems like a really concerned, involved dad, seems like a very, like, responsible, dedicated employee to his job. I mean, just kind of seemed like, you know, he had his stuff together and seemed like a decent guy. And it was one of those things where you could just tell, like, he was asking questions to truly get to know me. Like, it wasn't like surface stuff. And he, you know, at one point he even sent me a text. It was really interesting because it was like, you know, here are a lot of the things I've learned about myself that I'm working on, you know, all through self-improvement. So he was very like,
That's interesting.
Extremely. He was very open, and like he'd even say a couple times, he's like, am I saying too much? You know, am I going to scare you away? So talking initially, I was kind of like, all right, I feel like everybody I meet, it's either they meet me and want nothing to do with me, or they meet me and it's like, hey, let's get married in 2 weeks. Like there's not really an in-between. So this guy was kind of leaning toward that, like, I'm going to be wanting a lot of time and attention, and I'm going to be kind of almost over the top. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know that I'm ready for that yet. Like, I'd love someone to hang out with, but I don't want somebody that every hour is like, what are you doing? Kind of almost like checking up on me type of thing. So Topgolf was fun. And when we had been talking, I had told him the general vicinity of where I live, and because it turns out he was only like 5 minutes away from where I lived. So on the way back from Topgolf, he called me in the car and he's like, where are you? And I was like, oh, I'm at like this intersection. And I said, where are you? And he said, oh, I'm going to Kroger, the one over by your house. And I was like, oh, you want me to meet you there, don't you? And he's like, yeah. So I met him at Kroger and we walked around, he got his stuff, and then, you know, I left. So it was like, it was a good night, and it was completely innocent. He seemed normal. We talked on Friday, and he had something going on Friday night, but we had decided to get together on Saturday, and he had said something, was it Friday night maybe? He had said something like, well, I'm glad I walked away when I did after our date. He's like, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to stop myself. And I'm like, okay, fine, you know, whatever. But so he said if my kids weren't at the house, I would have invited you back to my place. And I said, oh, okay. So then we were talking about hanging out Saturday, and he's like, well, my kids are at the house. And I said, well, you know my situation, and we can't go to my place. So I said, well, let me see if I can find a hotel room. I was like, we'll just go hang out. So again, I should know better. Like, why would I do this? But he was like, well, I can cash app you some money if you want. And I was like, no. I was like, you got dinner and golf the other night. I was like, I'll get it. Don't worry about it. Like, you can pay for dinner or something. So on Saturday, I had asked him, I said, so do you want to go to dinner, or what were your thoughts? He's like, we could always even order in if you want. He's like, it doesn't really matter to me. We'll figure it out. I'm like, okay. So I said, well, I'm going to check in at this time. You can just meet me there whenever. So I checked in, and he gets there, and he walked into the room, and he didn't have his bag with him. I'm like, where's your bag? And he's like, oh, I left it in the car. He's like, I'll go get it in a little bit. I'm like, all right. So we were just kind of hanging out and stuff. And, you know, obviously one thing leads to another. And it was weird because the entire time, like, he kept looking at my eyes, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, your eyes are just so beautiful. Like, I can't stop looking at your eyes. And I'm like, okay. And then, like, you know, we'd be doing whatever, and he's like, slow down, you know, I want to make this last. And I'm like, okay. Like, it was just really weird. It was like, I
want clarity here. So hang on a second. So you're having sex?
No. We weren't even to that point yet. We weren't even to that point yet.
So you're just making out.
We're just
and he wants
messing
the foreplay
around.
to
Yes,
last.
he's wanting it to last.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was thinking that you were just riding the shit out of him.
No.
He's like, hold on, I don't want to come.
No.
Okay. All right. Got it.
No. But like,
got it.
I was
having fun. What do you call it?
Well, yeah. No, I mean, but it's like, you know, I was giving him some treatment, and he'd be like, I can't even say it.
You were giving head. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So he was like, he's like, hang on. He's like, stop for a second.
I
Stop for.
gotcha.
Okay,
so he
fine.
wanted you to slow down with that.
Yeah. So like, and then, so yeah, I mean, we were there for a little while, and then I'm trying to think of what some of the other things were that he's like, you know, I'm enjoying this time with you so much, and I'm glad we're here. And everything seemed like, you know, super fine, super innocent. So then, you know, I was giving him head again, and he, you know, to like completion. And all of a sudden he like I stopped. I was like, I'll go get like a washcloth or a towel for you. And so he's like, I'm going to run across the street and get dinner. I'm like,
right then.
Yeah, right, like immediately then. And I'm like, okay. Like, we haven't even like had sex yet, but okay. And I was like, all right. He's like, there's a Chick-fil-A across the street. What do you want? And I'm like, I was like, I'll just walk with you. And he's like, no. He's like, it's right across the street. That's the gentlemanly thing to do. He's like, don't bother getting dressed. Just stay here. I'm like, okay, you can get me like the 3-piece chicken finger, I suppose. So he's like, all right, I'll be right back. And he's like, I'll get my bag while I'm out there. And so then he calls me like 10 minutes later. He's like, hey, do you need anything at the little like mini mart that's right by Chick-fil-A? And I was like, no, I'm good. I've got drinks in the fridge, etc. And he's like, okay. And so then, I'm looking at my watch and it's like 10 minutes later. It's like 15 minutes later. And I'm like, holy shit, he left. He fucking took off. So, oh yeah, no, go ahead and laugh. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I went outside. And I thought I had seen, like when we were at Kroger, I said, like, let me know when you're here and I'll come meet you at your vehicle. Well, he didn't say anything. So I was waiting outside and then he walked up. So I think I saw his vehicle. Like, I think he had a truck. So I looked around the parking lot because I kind of got a glimpse of the license plate that night. Sure enough, no vehicles matching his plate. So I'm like, so I sent a text. This was before I realized he had left. I knew there was a lot going on that night. There was a concert across the street. There's people everywhere. And I'm like, I hope he didn't something didn't happen, or there was a ton of traffic that he get hit crossing the street. So I sent a text. I said, everything okay? And it went through as green instead of blue. And it says sent as text message. And I'm like, and it had happened once before when I had texted him. And sometimes if my service is bad, it goes through as a text instead of an iMessage. Yeah. All right, fine. Sure. So then I sent, like 10 minutes later, I sent a text that said, where are you? And that's when I realized. And then I was like, unfucking believable. Are you for real? And neither one went through. So I'm like, okay. So I tried. So no, it gets better. So I tried calling and it goes straight to voicemail. The number you have dialed. And I'm like, oh. So I go onto the Facebook dating app and all of a sudden his profile is gone. I was like, unreal. So I'm like, all right, last ditch effort. He has called me through FaceTime before. So I tried to FaceTime, would not go through, number is blocked. And I'm like, this is beyond weird, because if it was someone who was just wanting to hook up, like, wouldn't he have hung out for a little bit more than just like his quick get off and take off?
100%.
Right. Did I do so? Because of course, you know me. It goes immediately back to me. Did I do something wrong? Because I'm like, well, because he was saying stuff throughout. He's like, it's like, I don't know what the hell kind of training you've had. He's like, but he's like, it's like you've got some skills. And I'm like thinking, but
that's such a weird compliment.
It's beyond a weird compliment. But he's like, I've never felt it like that before. And I'm like, well, is that a good thing? He's like, oh hell yeah. And so again, I'm like, all right, well, I don't think someone was going to say that if they're like, this is horrible, like you're terrible, because they'd be saying like, do this way, like some people it's like would try to be like, well, can you do this instead? Or like he clearly enjoyed himself. So I'm like, all right, what did I do to mess up? And then part of me is like, maybe he just wanted that. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I just dropped $300 on a fucking hotel room that's non-refundable because I already checked in and he's gone. I'm like, do I just sleep here by myself tonight? Like, what in the hell? So I get in the car and I'm like, all right, I don't run background checks on a lot of people. Like, I've run them on some people in the past, but a lot of times I'm like, I knew his last name. He told me like the general vicinity where he lived. There were some things I find out after the fact that were a lie, but as I'm looking at it, I don't think he lives here. I think when he did live here at one point, he is originally from North Carolina. I think he was here visiting, and I think he was just looking for a hookup while he was visiting, because I went ahead and ran on background check a little too late, but his most recent address is North Carolina.
Oh, shit.
And he does not work for the employer he told me he worked for. He worked for a company in North Carolina. And I'm like, but then some of it wasn't adding up because like, he was here in town with his girls, which I have confirmation of because like he sent me a picture of them like at, wherever they had been, like on that Monday we were talking and stuff. And it's like date stamped and stuff. So like, I don't know. So I still don't know. I'm like, I truly do think he's divorced. I don't think, because from what I've looked at, I don't see any evidence that he's married. But the whole thing is weird because I'm like,
it's bizarre.
This is someone who's telling me like, he's talking to me about all this stuff. He's like, you're not like anyone I've met before. He's like, he's like, it's one thing to like just look for people for hooking up. He's like, but with you, I can actually like talk to you and have fun with you. He's like, it's more than just the attraction part, and like all these things that like, I don't know, they seem sincere. Clearly they weren't, but it was just weird because unless there was somewhere he had to go, and it's like he had never intended to be there like at past a certain time. I don't know, but I'm just like, and he spent, if that's all he was looking for, damn, that guy's got some like serious like determination, because he talked to me for hours from when we met the week prior or the weekend prior throughout the week. I mean, hours throughout the day. He'd be like, what are you doing? Like, I wish I could see you. It's just really strange. Whereas if it was someone who's like just looking to hook up, you can usually get an idea. But here's someone who's talking like, he's like, I'm looking for a life partner. I'm not looking for somebody to just hook up with. And he's like, to me, he's like, you're not dating material. You're somebody that somebody like, wants to be with and spend their time with. And so it was like, all right, is he just able to say all the right things? Or so I'm still beyond baffled, but I was pissed too, because I was like, I just totally got taken. Like, sometimes it's coming. Like, you totally know that the person is just looking for one thing.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like a given, and you're like, okay, let's just go have fun. In this case, oh my God, I did not see that coming. And now I'm like, I don't know, does he even live here? And frankly, I shouldn't care, but part of me is like so curious.
Well, you're trying to find the Scooby-Doo detective agency going on too.
I know, right? But like, so seriously, what would make a guy do that? I mean, it's like, what?
The only, like, catch a flight is all I can think of, because there is no, like, he, for lack of a better term, well, I won't even say it like that. He could have had sex with you then.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you were.
I offered, and he's like, no, I don't want it. He's like, don't rush it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
And then, like, so, like, are you a serial, like, I'm going to go get as much head as I can kind of guy?
I don't know.
I don't know, because
then part of me, too, was like, did he not have sex with me because he felt like then he would have felt more guilty? Or was it, I don't know. It was so weird. It was so...
But you saw he wasn't married. Like, you're pretty sure
he's not married. No, because and that's the thing. I mean, that dude's got his shit locked up online, because I could not find, like, his Facebook profile, but he was on Facebook dating. So in the background report, it shows, relatives and stuff. So I was able to find his ex-wife's profile. And so from years ago, there was like, he had clicked like on one of her pictures. So then I was able to get to his page, and from both his and hers, like, it's pretty clear they're not together.
Right.
But I don't know. It's so weird. I don't know.
Especially like my perspective, like, there's no, like, I would rather, like, if I am getting, I don't want to finish there. I want to.
Well, exactly.
That's what I want to do. So,
like,
I don't get that part. Like, there was an old saying, joke, I guess, that was, if your wife doesn't do it, it's not cheating. So, you're like, all right, maybe his wife doesn't get that. So he's out just getting that from random people.
I don't know. And it's just so strange, because it's like, I mean, now that I think back through it, there were different red flags, but I'm like...
But none you could see if you didn't already know the outcome, I'm sure, right?
Right. Now, the one thing that would have probably... That had I analyzed it a bit further, which I try not to do too much of, because that's my downfall, but, like, he had made the comment, because I had said, well, he'd asked what my kids were doing for the summer, are they doing camps or whatever, and I asked what his kids are doing, and he's like, oh, they're with my parents, and I'm like... But your parents are in North Carolina. And he was telling me how he's got the kids 90% of the time. And I was like, oh yeah, they're usually at my parents over the summer. And I'm like, so then why are they here with you now? Like, again, hindsight, thinking back. But it's just weird, because it's like, why would you have put forth that much time and effort in, like, and why would you have gone to that extent? Like, oh, like, I can't stop looking at your eyes. Like, who does that? Like, I mean, it was clear I didn't need that to, I mean, it was clear we were there for a purpose. But my thing is, okay, do that and stay, or say like, hey, that sucked, I'm going to leave, sorry. Like, I don't know, like, give me a heads up. But you just take off. I mean, like, that gives a new meaning to ghosting. Like, that is...
That's
beyond.
I mean, and that's not even like a full-on hit.
No, and that's
sex.
That's
kinda
what
like,
was so
it's
weird.
A drive-by.
I'm like, dude, like, you had like hours worth to get more out of that. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand it.
I'm so glad I waited to hear that now, because like it's just the authenticity of my reaction.
But that's why. I mean, I texted you, and you want to know the worst part? As I texted you, I was trying to find his former address in Fishers, because he told me that, like, at one point they had an address in, I think it was Fishers and Avon. So when I looked at the thing, there was an address on there, and ironically enough, it's the street I used to live on.
Oh, no.
However, he apparently rented there after I had already moved away, because I'm like, that would have just been really weird. But no, so I was like, I'm going to go and see, like, does he still live there? So I'm texting you like, I am in absolute shock. Like, you're not going to believe what just happened. And so, yeah, because I was like, because, you know, on Thursday, you're like, go have fun. You never know who you can meet. And after Thursday night, I'm like, I'm so glad I went out. Like, this was a lot of fun. We had a nice time. He seems like a genuine guy. I mean, he was like pretty upfront about some stuff. And a lot of what he told me was the truth, because a lot of it checked out. Like, when I looked at his, you know, LinkedIn and his background check and all that kind of stuff. And I did find his email address on LinkedIn. So I sent him an email and I said, you know, for somebody who's so concerned about the well-being of his daughters, you sure as hell haven't learned how to respect women. Oh, nice. I said, thanks for wasting my time, asshole. That's all I said. Because I was just like, you know, I just need to say something. I spoke my piece, I'm done. But if I didn't have a chance to say, like, you're an asshole, I wouldn't have been happy. So at least I got that out. But I'm baffled, because now I'm like, all right, so anybody who now comes across as genuine, I'm still going to doubt it, because look at that. Like, he seemed fully, his profile's all about, like, being a man of God. And I'm like, what in the hell? Like, but not that much, not like over the top, but just like.
Number one thing for that is forgiveness. That's what he's seeking.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. So in his mind, all he's got to do is ask for forgiveness, and he's fine. Like, he can go ahead and, you know, screw people over, but it's okay, because he asks for forgiveness after.
So is the lesson, like, you will never not do a background check?
I guess my lesson is, like, do the background check. Like, as over the top as that may seem, I also think at this point, like, I think it's sometimes the only way you're going to catch people and stuff, because, you know, as I told you from my very first escapade with Facebook dating, I mean, that was one where I was like, right after, I was like, yeah, you know, that's like when my ex, you know, got me arrested for this and I spent a year in jail. And I'm like, well, that's great pillow talk. So glad I knew that. Like, what'd you do? Get out last week? You know, I mean, it was just like.
So I know nothing about this. Does it cost X amount of dollars for every background check?
No, so I need to find,
subscription?
I think most of them are subscriptions. I need to find a better one, because what I found is. Well, this one. But no, true, because even with this one, had I run it before, there was some stuff on there. It wasn't full detail. Okay. So there was one guy that I went on a few dates with who told me, I forget what one he uses, but his seems pretty complete, because he, like, background checked me. He's like, you still driving that such and such car? Like, just kind of messing around. And, but so the one I had, I forget what it is. It's like, I don't know, it's like $35 a month or something. And I think you get to run like 100 profiles for that or something. Okay. So, I mean, but it's not super complete information. So I've got to find a better source that has more on there, because what you should be able to find is, you know, it tells you, like, address history, but it also gives you criminal background. It tells you, like, if it's on file that they're divorced or not, because some people say they're divorced and it's not, and it'll show you things like that. But a lot of times I'm like, I used to think I was a pretty decent judge of character. I used to think I was had like a good bullshit meter, but I mean, at this point, I'm like, I'm out. Like, I'm not trusting my judgment anymore.
Here's how you can trust your judgment.
Yeah.
Right? So there probably was quite a few people you said you didn't want to see in a nice way.
Yes.
And we still hung out.
Yes.
So there you go.
Right.
That's good judgment there. There's your good judgment.
Well, but see, but that's not even good judgment, because that was all a matter of, I've told you before, I reject the people that I shouldn't, and I go after the people that I shouldn't. And in this case, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna talk to this. I'm gonna give him the time of day because he seems like a nice guy, and maybe for once I will try to meet a nice guy instead of finding the people that I know are gonna hurt me. So here I am, like, trying to do the right thing, and it totally backfired on me. Yes.
But that's so bizarre, though.
Well, and the worst part is, I'm losing track of time because I'm just playing on my phone thinking he's picking up dinner. And I was a little pissed at first because when you said to order in, I'm like, dude, I was not thinking Chick-fil-A. Like, you can get something better than that. Because I had said, I'll get the hotel, you can get dinner. Like, there's room service, there's all sorts of restaurants nearby, and I'm like,
yeah, you're by the Apple or no, I forget what it is, but I know exactly, you're by the Marriott and the Choice Inn or whatever it is. Right
it's right over, So basically,
Cambria.
Yeah, so there's all of the restaurants over here at the mall. Yeah. So many choices. But if you think about it, which one's right across the street that he can walk to? Okay. Yeah. And I kept saying, I was like, no, I'll walk with you. I was like, I'll get some fresh air. No, don't get dressed. Just stay here. I'll get it. That's the gentlemanly thing to do. And I'm like, oh my God, like, no wonder there was no bag when he walked in. He had no intention of staying over. And to say he forgot it in his truck, who goes into a hotel with other bags?
Yeah,
like, come on. I know better than that.
What I don't get is, I really don't get the no sex part.
I don't. That's why I'm saying the whole thing is beyond puzzling to me. And that's why I keep going back to, like, did I do something? Because it was like someone flipped a switch. It was like everything was to where I'm like, I'm going to have to tell this guy at some point, like, look, I'm okay dating you, but, like, I can't have somebody who's, like, wanting to hang out every day and who's wanting to check in with me, like, all the time. Like, that's a little, like, I've got a lot of shit going on. I've got, things I need to manage on my own. I don't need somebody that's, like, attached to me 24/7. And so it's like that. And then it was like immediately after, that's the worst. Like, I hadn't even gotten the washcloth yet. I'm like, dude, you're putting your clothes on? You haven't even cleaned up. I was like, and so I handed, I was like, you might want to wipe yourself off. And he was like, oh, thanks. And he would have just put his clothes on. And he couldn't get out of there fast enough. It wasn't even like lay there for a few minutes, relax, and all of a sudden like, hey, I'm hungry, I'm going to go get some food. He jumped up within 30 seconds. And I was like, holy shit.
There's a lot that really sucks about that. The one, especially, that doesn't need to be done in a hotel room. I mean,
no, I'm like, hell, it could have been in your car. I mean, you're going to save me $300.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Like, why? Like, what was the facade about?
And then the worst part is, like, with hotels now, like, if you've got an additional occupant, they have you put the person's name at the bottom of the paper when you check in, so that if that person loses their key and goes up and says, I need a key for this room, they've got that you've authorized that name. Sure. So then all of a sudden, I'm like, this dude could come back in the middle of the night for all I know. And he's like registered on my room. Like, I have no idea. So I went downstairs and I'm like, I'm going to have to remove my extra guest. And at this point, it's like 7 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday night. And I'm like, and she kind of looks at me and she's like, so this person isn't? And I was like, nope, it's a long story. I scribbled it out and I initialed next to it and I just walked away. I'm like, please God, don't ask. I mean, I'm sure they see all things, but I was like, if you only realize, you'd probably feel bad enough to give me my money back and let me go home with some dignity, but like, it was so bad.
It's a different kind of walk of shame, isn't it?
Oh my God, it was the worst, because then I'm like, I'm in a hotel room that I don't want to be in by myself. I'm like, this is horrible. Yeah. And then what do? Like, go home and be like, yeah, that sucked. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad.
That's a catch-22, because you're like, I kind of would like to be in my own bed, but
I know.
Yeah, $300.
I'm like, I'm paying for this. I may as well have a hotel room. Yeah.
I'm gonna get the Continental breakfast in the morning too.
I slept through breakfast. I did. When he left to go get dinner, I think it was like 10 minutes when he called to say, hey, while I'm grabbing dinner, do you need anything from the mini mart? That's right. I forgot that part. Yeah. So it was probably 10, 15 minutes after that when I was like, all right, something's up. And that's when I sent the text, is everything okay? And it showed as green. And I'm like, that's okay. Sometimes the signal's bad, whatever. Could be from the hotel signal. So then like 5 minutes after that, I sent a thing and I was like, where are you? And then it was like, sent his text message, didn't show delivered. And I was like, oh, so that's when I went back into Facebook, into the dating app, and was like, okay, first I tried calling, went straight to voicemail. Then I tried to FaceTime because he had FaceTimed me throughout the week. So I was in there. So I clicked on that, did not go through. Like, okay, now I've figured out what's going on. So I go into the Facebook app and he has blocked me on that. So that's when I was like, all right, here's one I should have run a background check on ahead of time. So I tried to look stuff up, and I found, I don't think he lives here locally, not sure, but I did find an address in Fishers that looked like it was a former address, maybe. I don't know. So I was like, what the hell? I'll just drive that way and see if I see a vehicle. And
that's right. So you left the hotel.
yeah, so I left the hotel because at this point I'm like, do I just take my shit and leave, or do I like stay and have a really relaxing night, like no kids, like here I am, like just watch TV and sleep well, like I've already paid for the hotel, I'm already checked in, so I'm like, I'm gonna leave my stuff there, I'm gonna go take a drive. The address that had shown up had like a padlock on the front. It was like apparently a rental that was not occupied. So I'm like, all right, that didn't work. So I drive back toward the hotel and I'm like, what the hell? Like I've got a hotel. Like let's see. So there's one guy that I had kind of seen a couple times, and it's just like we get together every once in a while. I sent him a text and said, what are you doing tonight? And he said nothing. And I was like, oh, I happened to find a good deal on a hotel. Do you want to drive up here? And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I didn't sleep with the other guy, so it's not like I'm trying to like sleep with two different people in one night, like not going there. But he's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, okay, hold on, let me book it, because I didn't want it to seem like, hey,
let me book it. I'm not laying in here right now. Let me book it.
I was in the car. I was in the car because I'm like, I don't know if I need to go back in and get my stuff or what. So he's like, yeah, sure. He's like, I'll drive up there. And he lives pretty far away, so I knew it was going to take a little while. And so he got up there, and I was like, yeah, in hindsight, like, I should have found something like in between, so we each, we could have split the drive. So of course I felt terrible, but I'm like, hey, got a hotel room, got to use it. Like he didn't mind, obviously.
Right.
But the most embarrassing part, and I don't know if I told you this or not, but like at hotels now, you have to, if you have, don't laugh. If you have an extra occupant in the room, you put their name down on the paper when you sign in, so that like if they lose a key or something, they can go to the front desk and they can get a key or whatever. So I had the first person's name written down, and I'm like, okay, this guy could come back, and like I don't know. Now I'm like kind of worried. Like I don't need him showing up in the middle of the night. So I'm like, I'm gonna go down and have them cross him off. So I go downstairs and I'm like, I need you to remove my extra person from the page. And they're like looking at me like all sorts of strange. And so they hand me the paper and I cross it out and I initial it. And they're like, so he's not staying with you? I was like, no, he's not. It's a long story. But then I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to say, but can you add this other guy? Because I'm like, there's no way. Like, the other guy can lose his key, I'll help him out. Like at this point, no, like, cause how terrible would that be? So I'm like, all right, now how do I do this to where like they never saw me with the one guy, because he had come in and he had met me upstairs, and then he clearly left on his own because I didn't know he was leaving. So the other guy was going to get there after the point when the front doors are locked. So at this point, he's not going to have a key. So I'm like, I'm going to have to go down and let him in. So if they see me walking in with someone, they're going to be like, but I thought you crossed out your occupant. So I was like, let's not have any attention drawn. But anyway, so bad story, bad night, which ended up still being kind of fun, thankfully. But yeah, I felt horrible. But at the same time, I'm like, well,
I think it ended up really good. I mean, either way, because you're still talking to the guy who showed up.
Yes. And it's one of those things. It's like, we hang out every once in a while. Like, yeah. It's like no pressure, just kind of like, we know there's a distance factor. We're both busy, but every once in a while we hang out. So I don't think he minded. Like,
You go down there sometimes. He comes up there.
Yeah. So, like we've met in the middle before, and like, yeah, it's it is what it is.
Thank you for being along for the ride on the Swipe Wrong podcast, where we take everyday people like you and me telling their everyday stories of their swipe right life. Show is produced by Jay Pelham. He is the host of Pelham Place. If you want to reach out to the show and tell us your story, we'd love to hear it. Give us a call. Google Voice us at 317-426-6616. Leave your information and we'll get back to you, or just your story. You can also email us at swipewrongpod@gmail.com. We are on Insta, Facebook, TikTok. We're out there. I am Chaos, the host of Chaotic Commentary. You can find me pretty much anywhere that you see me. And next week, the saga continues.
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong.